Pull up to a red light in a 20-year-old Honda Civic with a dented bumper and watch how the guy next to you in his BMW won't even make eye contact. Now, roll up in a Tesla, and suddenly everyone's curious about who you are. Weird, right? We like to think we're above judging people, but the truth is, your car is basically a rolling resume that everyone's reading without your permission, and what they're deciding about your bank account, your success, and even your worth as a person happens in about 3 seconds. If you've ever felt that sting of being sized up based on what you drive, or if you've ever caught yourself doing it to someone else, smash that like button right now, because we're about to expose the hidden money bias that's been controlling how we see each other for over a century. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at a parking lot the same way again. And hey, make sure you subscribe, because we're diving deep into the psychology and history that the luxury car companies definitely don't want you thinking about too hard. Hey, this is Mark, and you're welcome to AUTOSAYS. So let's get real for a second. Why does a hunk of metal, plastic, and rubber have so much power over how we perceive someone's entire life? I mean, we're talking about a machine that gets you from point A to point B, but somehow it's become this status symbol that screams everything about your income, your priorities, and whether you've made it or not. The crazy part is, this didn't happen by accident. This is a meticulously crafted illusion that goes back to the very birth of the automobile industry. And once you see how it all started, you'll understand why we're basically programmed to judge. Picture this, it's 1908, and Henry Ford just released the Model T. This thing was revolutionary, not because it was fancy, but because it was affordable. For the first time in history, regular working-class Americans could own a car. Before that, automobiles were toys for the ultra-rich, handcrafted machines that cost more than most people made in several years. But Ford had a different vision. He wanted to democratize transportation, make it accessible to everyone. Sounds noble, right? Well, here's where it gets interesting. While Ford was making cars for the masses, other manufacturers saw an opportunity. They realized if everyone could afford a Ford, then owning a car was no longer special. So what did they do? They went the opposite direction. Companies like Cadillac, Packard, and later Mercedes-Benz started marketing their vehicles not as transportation, but as symbols of achievement, success, and social status. They literally created the concept of the luxury car to separate the haves from the have-nots. And it worked so well that we're still living with the consequences today. But wait, because it gets even more calculated than that. In the 1920s, General Motors under Alfred Sloan introduced something that changed everything, the idea of a car ladder. They created different brands at different price points, from Chevrolet at the bottom to Cadillac at the top. And the genius marketing message was this: as you become more successful in life, you should climb the ladder. Your car should reflect your upward mobility. It wasn't just about getting a better car, it was about showing the world you were moving up in society. This strategy tapped into something deep in human psychology, our need for social validation and our fear of being seen as unsuccessful. And here's the kicker, it created a system where people started judging others based on which rung of the ladder they were on, and that judgment became automatic, almost subconscious. Fast forward to today, and this programming is so deep that we don't even realize we're doing it. You see someone driving a luxury car, and your brain immediately makes assumptions. They're successful, they're smart with money, they've worked hard, they've got their life together. But hold on, because here's where the fear should start creeping in. What if I told you that most of those assumptions are completely wrong? Studies show that a huge percentage of luxury car owners are actually drowning in debt, leasing vehicles they can't afford, or sacrificing their financial future just to maintain an image. The person in the modest Toyota might actually be a millionaire who understands that a car is a depreciating asset, while the guy in the Mercedes might be 3 missed payments away from repossession. But we don't see that, do we? We see the badge on the hood and make our judgment. This is the hidden money bias in action, and it's costing us in ways that go way beyond just hurt feelings. Think about it in your own life. Have you ever felt pressure to upgrade your car not because you needed better transportation, but because you were worried about what people would think? Have you ever felt embarrassed pulling into a parking lot next to nicer cars? Have you ever judged someone's competence or success based on what they drove to a meeting? If you're being honest, the answer is probably yes, because we've all been conditioned to play this game. Now, here's where the urgency kicks in, because this bias isn't just affecting how we see others, it's affecting major life decisions. People are taking on car payments they can't afford, choosing image over financial security, and literally sabotaging their wealth-building potential because they're afraid of being judged. The average new car payment in America right now is over $700 a month, and many people are stretching to 6 or 7 year loans just to afford the monthly payment on a car that makes them look successful. Meanwhile, that same money invested consistently could build serious wealth over time. But here's the really messed up part. The system is designed to keep you playing this game. Car manufacturers spend billions on advertising that's specifically crafted to link their vehicles with identity, success, and social status. They're not selling you transportation, they're selling you an image of who you could be, and they're betting that your fear of being judged will override your financial common sense. And it works because our brains are wired to care about social status. It's evolutionary. Back when we lived in small tribes, your status in the group literally determined your survival and ability to pass on your genes. Being excluded or looked down upon could mean death, so we developed this hypersensitivity to social signals and status markers. And in modern society, cars have become one of the most visible status markers we have. Let me throw in a pattern interrupt here, because I know some of you are thinking, but Mark, I just like nice cars. This isn't about status for me. And hey, maybe that's true. But ask yourself this, would you still want that luxury car if nobody ever saw you driving it? If you lived on a deserted island but still needed transportation, would you care about the badge on the hood? Be honest with yourself, because the answer reveals a lot about what's really driving the desire. No pun intended. Now, let's talk about how this plays out in different scenarios, because the bias works in multiple directions, and it's way more nuanced than just expensive car equals successful person. There's also reverse judgment happening. You know what I'm talking about. Someone rolls up in a really expensive, exotic car, and instead of admiration, they get resentment. People assume they're arrogant, materialistic, or maybe they inherited money, didn't earn it themselves. This is especially true with younger people in high-end cars. The judgment immediately goes to rich parents, or must be doing something shady. And then there's the judgment around car choices that have nothing to do with price. Someone driving a Prius might be judged as self-righteous or preachy about the environment. Someone in a big truck might be seen as compensating for something, or as wasteful. A minivan signals you've given up on being cool and fully embraced suburban family life. Every single vehicle choice comes with a set of stereotypes and assumptions that people project on the driver. And here's the wild part. These judgments happen so fast that we don't even have time to question them. Your brain sees the car, accesses its database of cultural associations and stereotypes, and boom, judgment made, all in the time it takes to glance at a parking space. The history of how different car types got their stereotypes is actually fascinating. Trucks became associated with blue-collar work and masculinity because that's how they were marketed for decades. SUVs became status symbols for suburban families in the 90s, when manufacturers realized they could charge luxury prices for what was essentially a truck with more seats. Sports cars got linked to midlife crises because that's when men typically had the disposable income to afford them and the psychological need to feel young again. Every stereotype has an origin story in marketing and culture, but we treat them like they're natural truths. So here's the uncomfortable question we need to confront. If we know these biases are based on manufactured marketing and cultural conditioning rather than actual truth, why do we keep perpetuating them? And more importantly, what's the cost of continuing to play this game? Because there is a cost, both personal and societal. On a personal level, the cost is financial stress, debt, and delayed wealth building. On a societal level, it's a culture of superficial judgment that values appearances over substance. It's people making assumptions about someone's character, work ethic, and worth based on a purchase decision that might not have had anything to do with any of those things. The person driving the old car might be financially savvy, environmentally conscious, or saving for something more important. The person in the luxury car might have earned every penny through hard work, or they might be fronting an image they can't sustain. The truth is, we don't know, but we judge anyway. And here's the cliffhanger for the final act. What if I told you there's a growing movement of wealthy people who are deliberately choosing to drive modest cars specifically to avoid these judgments and to test who judges them based on appearances? What if the real power move isn't climbing the car ladder at all, but stepping off it entirely? We're about to get into the psychology of true wealth versus the appearance of wealth, and how understanding this could completely change your relationship with money and status. Stay with me, because this is where it all comes together. See, truly wealthy people, the ones with real financial security and generational wealth, often have a completely different relationship with cars than people who are trying to look wealthy. There's actually research on this. Thomas Stanley's book, The Millionaire Next Door, found that most actual millionaires drive modest, reliable cars and keep them for years. They understand that a car is a depreciating asset, meaning it loses value the moment you drive it off the lot. And they're not interested in impressing people with their transportation choices. Meanwhile, people with high incomes but low net worth are much more likely to drive luxury vehicles because they're focused on looking successful rather than being financially secure. This creates a weird paradox where the person you assume is wealthy based on their car might actually be broke, and the person you dismiss because of their modest vehicle might be sitting on millions. And here's why this matters for you, right now, today. Every time you make a car decision based on what others will think, you're choosing their opinion over your financial future. Every time you judge someone else based on their car, you're participating in a system that benefits car manufacturers and hurts real human connection. We're literally letting corporations manipulate our social instincts for their profit. So what's the answer? I'm not saying everyone should drive a beater or that enjoying cars is wrong. I'm saying we need to become aware of the hidden money bias and make conscious choices instead of automatic ones. Ask yourself why you want the car you want. Is it genuinely for you, or is it for the audience you imagine is watching and judging? Are you making financial decisions based on fear of judgment or on your actual values and goals? And when you catch yourself judging someone based on their car, pause and question that impulse. What does their vehicle choice actually tell you about who they are as a person? Usually, the answer is nothing, or at least nothing reliable. The truth is, we've been manipulated into playing a game where the house always wins, and that house is the automotive industry. They've convinced us that our worth, our success, our very identity is tied to what we drive, and they profit every time we buy into that story. But you can opt out. You can choose to base your car decisions on practical factors like reliability, cost of ownership, and what actually serves your life, not your image. You can choose to see people as more than their vehicles. And maybe most importantly, you can stop letting fear of judgment control your financial choices. Because here's the final truth. The people whose opinions you're worried about, the ones you think are judging your car, they're mostly worried about being judged themselves. Everyone's playing the same game, afraid of the same thing, and nobody wins except the companies selling the cars. So the next time you're at that red light and you notice yourself sizing up the cars around you, remember everything we've talked about. Remember that you're looking at a manufactured status symbol, not a measure of human worth. Remember that true wealth whispers while insecurity shouts. And remember that the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to play a game you never agreed to in the first place. Your car doesn't define you, and their car doesn't define them. And once you really internalize that, you're free. Free from the pressure, free from the judgment, free to make choices that actually serve your life instead of serving an image. That's the real luxury, and it doesn't cost $700 a month.